Mixtape Podcast.
Damian Lillard is headed to the Milwaukee Bucks as part of a three-team deal involving the Phoenix Suns that sees the Bucks guard Drew Holiday and Sun center DeAndre Hunter on the move. Bucks
DeAndre Ayton.
DeAndre Ayton. Freudian slip. DeAndre Ayton on the move. Bucks received Damian Lillard via the Blazers. There were some other pieces. There were some other picks in there. We're not going to get into all that because it's not Knicks related. But how does this relate to the Knicks? Well, that's because the Bucks are in the Eastern Conference, and that's going to make it
Christmas.
We play them on Christmas Day. Yeah, and the Bucks. Yes, this is a trade that makes the Bucks better. This is a trade where you're putting two of the best players in the NBA next to each other. Giannis Antetokounmpo is great inside of the three-point arc.
And on defense.
And
in rebounding.
And Damian Lillard is good anywhere beyond the three-point arc. How do you defend that? And for a team like the Knicks, who are, known as a good defensive team and known as a hard-playing team, I do think that this is going to make things tough for the Knicks. Do you see that matchup being a very big problem for us in this upcoming season? I
see that matchup being a big problem from every team in the NBA. I feel like they're the closest thing to LeBron and Kyrie since 2017. But Giannis is just one of the best players in the world. He has now the best offensive player he's ever had in his career on his team now. Damian Lillard now has the best defender and scorer he's ever had on his team. So I feel like it's a match made in heaven. They gave up a lot to get Dame. Drew Holiday was the best defender or best perimeter defender on Milwaukee. And I feel like he's going to be sorely missed. But you trade one for an outstanding offensive talent in Damian Lillard. You can't really regret that at all. You can always draft another defender or sign another. You make another trade. You could do whatever you can to get some perimeter defense on your team, but you cannot get a top 75 player like Damian Lillard on your team.
How does this really impact, though, the New York Knicks? Why are we talking about them?
I mean, outside of the fact that we're going to be playing Milwaukee on Christmas Day and we're going to have to face this team in the playoffs, barring any injuries on their side, Drew Holiday was the biggest name in this trade outside of Damian Lillard, and he's in Portland now. Portland is looking to shop him because they don't really want to keep Drew Holiday with their roster because they already have a bunch of young guards that they just finished drafting. Scoot Henderson was their main draft pick this last offseason, which is what kicked off the Damian Lillard trade, which motivated them to want to get rid of him. And I believe the Knicks are one of the teams in pursuit of Drew Holiday, according to reports.
Yep.
They have expressed some interest with Portland, but Portland is looking to shop him for some draft compensation. It's rumored to be multiple first-round picks, if at least 2 first-round picks, which we have. A lot of teams don't have access to their own first-round picks as well as others. We have 7 that we can trade.
Mm-hmm.
And
not for Drew, though.
I don't think Drew Holiday is the person that we should make those type of investments in, just due to the fact that he isn't on the same timeline as the rest of the roster. We're one of the youngest rosters in the NBA. Mm-hmm. I think we're set up to have the brightest future out of all the teams in the East. A lot of the teams in the East that are good right now all are topping out, and they're going to be losing a lot of their best players due to just age and probably retirement soon. Drew Holiday's 33 years old. And for us to make that trade with his huge contract, it would have to include either R.J. Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, or just any one of the guys of the on the roster that we just don't want to leave off the roster. Like, we don't want to trade any of these young guys. We would trade Evan Fournier, but his contract isn't enough to make a trade like this. And if Drew Holiday is the last piece of the puzzle, I feel like he makes perfect sense. But if he's just going to be a piece and we still need another top dog to come in, I don't think it's worth it. I think He's the guy that you trade for when you one piece away from winning a championship, and I don't think we're at that point right now. What's your thoughts?
I go back and forth on this. So as you just said, first of all, it's not either RJ or Quickly. Quickly's contract, like if you're putting Quickly in, it's so that you don't have to send a first round pick. Or maybe that's what Portland wants. But if they want RJ and Quickly, you say no. RJ's contract is key. I don't think the Knicks are going to trade Julius Randle for Drew Holiday. He's the other salary that would be perfect in a trade like this, but they're not doing that. They're probably doing RJ and then somebody else to make the salaries more even. RJ, some salary filler, 1 first-round pick, maybe a protected on top of that. Do I do that so I can have a starting lineup of Jalen Brunson, Drew Holiday, either Josh Hart or Quentin Grimes, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson? That's a tempting lineup.
For how many years?
I mean, according to those same reports, if the Knicks do pursue Drew Holiday, they are not looking at, we're just going to try him out for this year. No, they're going to try to extend him if they're going to make that trade. So they're going to do their due diligence to make sure that he's willing to stay with New York past this season. So I like Drew Holiday as, a part of this lineup. RJ Barrett's defense can be good, but a lot of times isn't. He played very well in the playoffs, both offensively and defensively. If he can keep that up, then maybe this is not a trade that I'm jumping at the chance. But he's very inconsistent, and he has to show for an entire season that he's not going to be inconsistent before this is not an interesting trade to me. So if he's the headliner in a trade for Drew Holiday, I have to consider it. Yeah, it doesn't make us a clear contender, but let's assume Quentin Grimes gets better. Remember, this is his 3rd year. He shot
First
well
time in the playoffs.
First time in the playoffs. He's got some seasoning now. First year he was a good shooter. Second year he showed he can be a great two-way player. If he can continue his upward swing, either he starts or he comes off the bench. You got Emmanuel Quickly. He was great last year. Mm-hmm. He's got a little bit more playoff experience. It's still a very good team, and I'm not saying that they would win the championship with that team, but they will definitely be a better team if they do that trade, if it's constructed the way that I just said.
Here's one aspect you're leaving out, and I'm surprised that we didn't even address this whole podcast.
Okay.
We lost Obi Toppin this summer.
Well, I was going to bring it up before we signed out.
But here's why I bring it up.
Okay.
When you trading a guy like RJ Barrett for another guard, when we just picked up a guard in free agency in Dante DiVincenzo, who is a great rebounder, great shooter, but when you lose out on size with Obi Toppin, and then you trade another big body in RJ Barrett for another guard, I don't think that that's going to bode well for our defense. So maybe Drew Holiday is a great perimeter defender, but you saw what Jimmy Butler was doing to him in the playoffs. He wasn't doing that to RJ Barrett. Right. And RJ Barrett was our second best player in the playoffs this last season. And he's only 22, 23 years old. Drew Holiday's 33 years old. So RJ Barrett's ceiling still has not been determined. He still hasn't even reached his prime. And that's what makes me shaky.
And that's the thing. That's the thing where
in an aspect like this.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, that's the thing that is going to be very key. I'm not hoping that they make a trade like this. I'm very comfortable with the team as it's currently constructed. I think this team is going to do very well. It's not a coincidence that we're seeing a lot of pundits, a lot of people who are in the blog sphere, in the YouTube sphere, start saying, "Hey, listen, don't count out the Knicks. They're bringing back a better version of the team with most of their players still here. They've got that cohesion, that consistency. They've got all of the things that they need in order to make that run in the playoffs.
And we got the young guys who are still learning. They're still young. Quickly coming off his worst play of his career in that last playoff run. He's going to be a lot better. He was supposed to be Sixth Man of the Year. I don't see him not being in that same race this upcoming season. Quentin Grimes, another season where he's going to grow, be a bigger 3-and-D threat.
There's a lot to be excited about with this season. And outside of the Milwaukee Bucks, and we'll talk about this more in depth in the next episode, outside of the Milwaukee Bucks, the rest of the Eastern Conference, I don't see there being a team that is clear-cut 100% better than the Knicks.
The Knicks Take Podcast.
Yeah, what it do?